Well, welcome to the Seven Figure Builder Show. My name is Julie Baranek, founder of Seven Figure Builder, where we help high achieving business owners save time in their schedules every single week by implementing marketing automation to grow and scale their businesses to seven figures and beyond. And I'm here today with my friend Bob Hunter. Welcome, Bob.
Hi, Julie. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. I'm glad you're here. So, for people that don't have the pleasure to meet you yet, can you tell us a little bit about what you do with your business?
So my name is Bob Hunter, and I'm the CEO of Oxford Pierpont, and more recently, mybusinesscredit.com. And basically, my whole career has been about business development and helping people. And so that is essentially what I do all day. I consult business owners, I talk to them about their various problems. More recently, that's been a lot around business finance, and then we solve those problems, and yeah, the job is done until the next one.
I love it. So, what aspects of business, you mentioned finance is one, but what aspects of business do you help people with?
So it started out, I'd say from 2016 to about 2020, we were really just focused on business development, and that varied wildly. So I'll give you an example. Let's say that you went and you saw your doctor and you told your doctor, "Hey, doctor, I have these various symptoms." It's the doctor's job to have the experience and education to know based on those symptoms, these are the causes, therefore, this is the prescription that you need. We took the same approach with business development where a business owner was able to tell us, hey, I'm having this problem, I'm having that problem. And then we're able to apply and implement the custom solutions for that specific business owner. So sometimes they needed a new website, sometimes they needed new staff, sometimes they needed better products, better marketing, or financing. The downside to that whole story is the pandemic. So
Ah, yes.
we ourselves almost did not survive the pandemic because by that point we'd really been focusing on the niches of the banking industry, specifically mortgage and law. So dealing with a lot of attorneys. Pandemic hits, no one's really buying houses or dealing with money until the PPP thing later, but initially they weren't. And then the courts were literally closed on the legal side. And so our clients are like, yeah, we just need to pause our services. There's a lot of
No,
pausing of
no.
services. Yes, because when money's tight, marketing's like one of the first things to go. You're on a tight budget. Um, so that is how we got more heavily into business finance, just because everyone was basically like, hey, well, we need money. And I was like, well, why don't we sell money? And so here we are. It's now 2023, and we are doing that better than ever. So that is that's basically my job. That's what I do all day.
That's awesome. So, do you feel that your business and its new model, obviously it's evolved over the past few years, but do you feel more resilient as far as, recessions and different things that can always come your way?
Yes. The funny thing is, it's way easier to sell money than it is to sell any other service. So, if you're selling a website or you're selling a marketing plan or even staffing services, there's a whole sales process, right? You've got to convince that client that this is the right solution for them, that you're the right person to provide that solution, all these steps. When you're selling money, as I like to put it, or financing, it's the other way around. That client is just really trying to do what they can to qualify for the money. It's not really that complicated of a process. So much, much, much different. But I don't think anyone will ever come to a point where they stop needing money. So I'm a
This is
lot
very true.
happy.
It
Yeah.
gives you a lot more stability.
Yes.
So, in your role with that, do you look at different sources of money, the different financing, see what people qualify for, or what exactly is your role in that?
So, as I mentioned earlier, or excuse me, as I mentioned earlier, we have two different companies. They're really both Oxford Pierpont Capital, but my business credit is the small business, medium business, family, or rather friendly version of it, and that is the one that has more handholding. So, if a person has come to Oxford, uh, they already typically have their things in order. They're looking for over $500,000, and the process is pretty straightforward, but it's the small and medium sized business owners. Those are the ones that really need that individual help. Just because if they're anything like me, as many people are, business was not their first thing. Like it was not their, how can I put it? Entrepreneurship for many people is like such a reactive thing. I am reacting to this passion that I have. I'm reacting to this idea that I'm having, or I'm reacting to the fact that I hate my boss. And so and they start a business, right? And so then what happens for most people that I've met anyway, they start their business and then they're focused on either delivering that customer or that product or service, right? So we still are leaving out this huge business administration piece, all of the technicalities of actually having a business. Simple things sometimes like, did you actually register your business the right way? Do you even have the right business entity? Are you still operating, out of your out of just your house, and that's the address you're putting on all your legal documents? Are you still using a Gmail and your cell phone? Little things like that. So we're starting at that level before we're starting to build up into more advanced credit building techniques, more advanced banking techniques, and everything. So my business credit covers all of that wonderful stuff. Like I said, when people are coming directly through Oxford Pierpont, it's more of a corporate experience, and it's not the same kind of conversation there. It's usually just strictly talking about SBAs or angel investors and things of that nature.
So how about helping people raise funding for their business or financially prepare for their business? What do you recommend for that?
So knowledge is like the biggest part of it, because I'll tell you exactly what happens. So we have this pre-qualification form on our site, and 9 out of 10 people who fill out that form, they are either going to be told that they don't qualify outright, or they will qualify for way less than what they're expecting. And it's because of a whole bunch of things that they just didn't know that they had to do. For example, if we're talking to a lender, the lender is going to ask you for your last 3 bank statements at least. Sometimes they say we need your last 6. And everyone's thinking like, oh, they're going to go through all my transactions and see what I spend money on, not knowing the main thing the lender wants out of that is your bank rating. Most people don't even know what a bank rating is. I certainly didn't. And just for those who are still wondering, it is a calculation of your average monthly balance over a 3-month period. And that number needs to be $10,000 or higher. That means your average daily balance was $10,000 or higher. How is anyone supposed to know that? And more importantly, for a new business owner, you probably don't just have $10,000 sitting in your account by accident, just naturally, because you're paying for stuff. So we focus on ways to leverage the money that you have coming in more creatively and sustainably, so that you're able to get multiple uses out of every dollar. So that you are able to maintain that $10,000 balance without really suffering any. We get into the whole credit thing. Now, we don't do personal credit because there are 1,001 people out there that'll help you with your personal credit, but we do help people understand like, hey, if you want someone to give you money, you really have to be able to show evidence that you have successfully handled money, right? And you have to show evidence that not only have other people trusted you, but that with their trust, you actually paid your bills and you actually did what you're supposed to be doing as a business owner. You have a sound business. Or helping people understand the revenue requirements, so people don't understand that. They'll apply with like $5,000 to $10,000 in revenue, not realizing, hey, really the bank wants to see at least 10,000, ideally 30, 35,000, for those minimum numbers. So we help people start thinking creatively. Okay, so how can I increase my revenue before I apply for funding? So to answer your question, there are all these little things that people just simply don't know. I always say, like, you don't know what you don't know until you know
Totally.
and that saves, I guess, so much for people, because they're at least able to understand better. Okay, this is why I got declined. It wasn't just about my credit score, or it wasn't just about, the type of business that I had, but there are all of these specific and fixable problems that I can address, and then 90 days, try again. So yeah.
Yeah. And it also helps build your credibility as a business financially. Like most people don't think about that. You think about your credit score, right, as being a representative of your credibility, but you wouldn't think about your average daily balance and all these other things that the banks look for.
Well, I always, just kind of jokingly say, well, only half joking, the bank, for all the numerous questions that they ask, they're really just trying to get one question answered. And that is, if we give you money, are you actually going to give it back? Or are you going to fall into the statistics of people that default on the loan? And you have to put yourselves in the shoes of the person whose job it is to underwrite loans, okay? There's someone out there whose entire job is writing on the percentage of loans that they've written that actually end up being good loans versus bad ones. too many of the bad ones, they lose their job. And they are supposed to look at every aspect of your business to really determine as best they can, are you someone who's actually going to be a good person to lend to, right? And so credibility is everything. You're down to the email address that you're sending from, you know, your name at yourbusiness.com instead of your name at gmail.com. That matters, you know. Do you have a website? Like, are you basically able to make lenders feel comfortable both from a just operational perspective and from a nuts and bolts down to the numbers, money, credit, from that kind of perspective, years in business, all of that. So it's really just about pulling the curtain back and being able to see, like, hey, here's what the lenders are actually looking for. So
Yeah, it's all about risk versus reward for them, right?
all of that makes you a more credible business owner and therefore, you know, easier to do business with.
Yeah, no, my sweet spot is marketing automation. So my goal is to help free up your time. So I don't know, in your line of work, how much automation do you use within your business?
So we use this company called High Level, and the CEO there, his name is Sean Clark, and we were using High Level back when like they only had a couple hundred people. So Sean back in those days, like you could easily get a hold of Sean and talking about this problem, that problem. And now High Level is just this huge thing. And so we use it a lot for marketing automation just because you're able to handle your phone calls, the text messages, emails, your social media, a lot. There's just a lot. High Level even has, I think, like full WordPress and funnels and templates and all that stuff built in. So when it
Awesome.
comes to marketing automation, that's really where we're essentially having AI do a lot of that conversation piece, especially with lead generation, responding to people, warming up those leads before we pass them on to a human to cut down that workload for the actual staff.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, how, with all that set up, how do you ensure the high personal touch? Like you want that one-on-one connection with people.
Yeah. I mean, picking up the phone. So what will generally happen is we're really just trying to sort out the people who were just filling out stuff from the people who are actually responding, and then immediately giving them that human connection. So having that one-on-one, like, hey, I saw that you were interested in this. Let's say that we're talking about the business financing thing. Hey, I saw that you're looking for funding, like, you know, finding out what their needs are, understanding psychology when you are talking to that person and understanding, at least in my line, being a B2B company or companies, um, everyone is only really concerned about, hey, I have this specific goal in my business or in my life, and everything that I'm doing is to solve for that, just that one goal, to achieve that goal. The solution is, I mean, like let's say money, for example, is what we're talking about here. Was it really about the money, or was it about what they are wanting to do with the money? So having that personal connection and having that conversation at that level to just really understand people and understand, hey, I know that we're talking about money because you came to a funding website, but why do you really want the money? Or if someone came to us to talk about, let's say, a website or a marketing campaign, the website, the marketing campaign, that's really just a tool, isn't it? What you really wanted maybe was a connection with your customers, or maybe you wanted to increase your brand presence, or just increase your market share or something else. So connecting with people, I guess, is what it really comes down to after the automation part. And that's something that a lot of people forget or really just miss out on, is that psychology.
Yeah, and they're coming there for a pain point, right? The more you can help address that pain point, the more you can serve your customers.
Exactly, exactly. And understanding how painful of a pain point we're talking, because I like to use like a person who's hungry as an example. There are different levels of hungry, you know. Um, Maybe if I'm starving, I'll take whatever the first McDonald's burger is that I can get. But if I'm not starving, maybe I'm willing to go and wait for a nice steak and pay a little bit extra for it, right? So understanding what level of pain a person is in their business, or just in their life in general, if we're talking about regular customers.
Yeah. Working with a lot of business owners in finance, what are the common myths that you've found that people believe about finance and business and being able to be financially stable?
There's one very big one huge one that just annoys me so much.
Go for it. Spill the beans.
Okay, so it only takes about maybe 30 seconds of Instagramming, if you're Instagramming or looking on YouTube or anything for business finance, you're going to find someone, some guru somewhere who's going to say something along the lines of, oh, you can go get an EIN for your business. And then you can use that EIN to go and get a car and go buy a building and all this stuff just with the EIN. No one's going to ask you any other questions, you know. All you needed was just go to the IRS, get an EIN, and that's just going to solve all your problems. That has got to be the biggest one for me, because it is so extremely misleading. What they're talking about is what's called unsecured business financing, okay? And I'm not saying that you cannot just put down your EIN and never have to put down your social or anything, but that is something that is earned. No bank is going to just trust you with all of their assets or whatever it is that you're asking for, right? Just because you have an EIN. If that was the case, all of us would just have millions of dollars. The reality of it is you do need to work on your personal credit. I would say even before handling, of course, at the same time, but even before focusing just on the business credit, truly handle your personal credit, because there is no easy way around that. If you have a credit score that is 680 or higher, then you're in good shape. If it's anything less than 680, you do genuinely need to take it seriously and work on that, because even as a business owner, you're going to be asked to do personal guarantees for things until your business can truly show that it can stand on its own without any kind of personal guarantee from you. That is the only way to have an EIN that you can just put down on anything and no one's going to ask you for your personal credit history. Until then, you've got to make sure you're taking care of both. And when I say unsecured business financing, to be able to qualify for that, we're talking about a few things. So number one, 2 years in business, you can't fake that, right? Either you've been in business for 2 years or you haven't. You've got to have a business bank account. There is no, I'm mixing money in my personal and business. It's got to be a business bank account. In that business bank account, you must have at least a $10,000 average daily balance, which is called your bank rating of a low 5 or higher. That's what that is. It's a bank rating. So you've got to have that. Your business credit score has to be an 80 or higher. If it's not, that doesn't mean that the conversation can't happen, but it just means don't be surprised if you are asked to do that personal guarantee. And the funny thing is, even if you've got all these things right, you're still going to be asked for your personal credit. That doesn't mean you're going to have to guarantee whatever loan, but they are still going to check your personal credit in many cases. And that number that they're looking for is a 680 or higher. There are some loans, like if you're doing equipment financing or something like that, where the numbers are lower, they might look for 650 in some cases, but you just want to assume that it's going to be 680 or higher. Another one is your revenue. They want you to be making $35,000 per month, and you need to be able to show in at least 3 months of this kind of income happening in your business. So my point here is there are all of these moving parts that go into you being able to actually get any kind of funding without having to do a personal guarantee on it. Another one is relationships. You need to have at least 15 accounts, so vendor lines, pointing to your business. That doesn't necessarily mean just all vendor accounts. It can be a mix of vendor accounts, business credit cards, loans. It can be a mix of things, but you need at least 15 trade lines, 15 accounts associated with your business, because that basically is evidence that, hey, 15 times you've been given an opportunity to have access to some kind of money, whether it is like net terms on something that you pay for later, or it's an outright credit card. You've been given 15 opportunities and you've handled those opportunities well. So all of that is how you get unsecured business financing. For the people who are thinking like, oh, I'm just going to go get an EIN from the IRS and boom, I'm going to go get a car the next day. No, you're not.
You could try.
Right.
But it won't happen.
Right. Not with just your business. You can go ahead and prepare to put down that personal guarantee for the business on whatever that is that you're buying. Yeah. So education is what it comes down to, just knowing what you're supposed to be doing and what you're not supposed to be doing. So.
Absolutely. So speaking of Instagram, I noticed that you are a photography lover.
Yes.
That's awesome. I was checking out some of your pictures and I like the work that you had done with that. It struck me as like street photography and very storytelling, which I really liked. I used to do professional photography, so that's why it
So
caught
it's
my
fun.
eye.
People ask me all the time, like, hey, can you take my photos? The photography is like the one thing that I do to escape from the thing that I do.
Right.
And I did try a few times to do it like professionally for other people, and the amount of stress, I was like, I might as well have just stayed at my business. Like, no, be able to take pictures of random things. I don't
Yeah.
know how to do any of the photoshopping and editing, so I get a kick out of getting the settings just right in my camera manually, and then just whatever came out of the camera, like that's the image. No photoshopping, no blurring or whatever it is. This beat up.
Nice.
So
All right.
I have two of these, and I just take them wherever I'm traveling. So a lot of those photos were in Thailand, and Colombia.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're beautiful. I only
Yeah.
have one complaint though. You're using
Okay.
a Canon. I'm a Nikon girl, so
You know, I've only ever had Canon, and it has not been abusive to me yet. So it's don't fix it kind of situations.
Yeah, no, I actually, my first camera was a Canon, and that's what I learned on essentially. And then somehow someone convinced me to try Nikon, and that's what I've had ever since. But no, they're both awesome. They both work.
Is it noticeably different?
It was more how the camera functions itself, like just that the actual, I got mine over here too, but the actual, the way the functionality of the camera was definitely different. It's kind of like an Apple versus a Samsung. Like I'm actually a Samsung girl. So, but
Mm,
the user interface is different too. So
there's a very big comparison. I'm assuming
they both work. They both will accomplish the same thing.
boy, those are two different experiences.
But they tend to be hot topics for anybody in photography. So
I want to try one. I mean, I like Apple. So,
yeah, I do with all my devices. But yeah, for some reason, I have an iPhone too, and I have it. Yeah, it just wasn't liking it, but it's funny. We all have our preferences.
it's Apple devices right now. Yeah, I'm pretty committed.
Yep, we all get set in our ways. I know, and everything else I have is actually Apple. It's just not my phone for some reason.
Nice.
Yes. So you do like to travel. Where are your favorite places that you've traveled to?
Thailand easily was the best one, and boy, if I didn't have a kid, I probably would not have left. Um, just because it's funny. So I had this friend, and back in 2017, he was supposed to go to Thailand for, I don't know, like a couple of weeks. Never came back. This was back in 2017, and I always joked about it because I didn't get it. Like he literally just went out there, was supposed to just be a couple of weeks. He never came back.
Wow.
I get out there in 2020, and I immediately was like, oh, this is why. It's Thailand is wonderful. The weather was wonderful. There was this extreme abundance of food, and I like food, and I like food photography, so that was wonderful. The people are so nice. Like I'm literally walking around with this $2,000 camera around my neck, just walking up and down the streets, perfectly safe, perfectly fine. Did not do that in Colombia.
Yeah, you would not have come home with
Turned
it.
away immediately. But Thailand is just wonderful. So yeah, easily my favorite place. And I have a lot of employees in the Philippines now, so I'm planning to go to the Philippines so that I can meet them all and have a big party for them. But yeah, Thailand. So
I've heard it's absolutely incredible. I've not been there yet, but it's on my list.
yeah, it's definitely worth it. And I mean the benefit of having the US dollar in many of those countries is just phenomenal too, because it really changes your perception on traveling as a whole. At least it did for me. A lot of people, they think traveling is this huge expensive thing, not realizing just getting to the place is really where the expense is. Once you're there, you often find that things are not nearly as expensive as they are here in the States. So you can do so much more than you're expecting. So Yeah, I could go on about traveling forever. So it's I like doing it because my job is jobs balancing the companies. It is stressful. And I think it's a really big lesson for entrepreneurs in general. You do need to have some kind of outlet that is not related to your business. Um, because I mean, business is just stressful. Of course, you get to a point where the business stops being stressful because you've won, right? And the business is now self-sustaining, it's taking care of itself. But getting to that point can be a really big challenge if you don't have the stamina to get through it. So you need some kind of outlet, whether it's photography or something as large as traveling, that just really helps you keep your mentality in check so that you can keep moving forward.
Yeah, otherwise you just bottle up the stress and carry it with you every single day, and that's just dangerous.
Yes. Mental health.
Yeah, for sure. So at what point, looking over your businesses, did you look at them and say that they were a success?
I would say that for me, the success part, I don't know if I'll ever really achieve it by my standards. And it's because of what my long-term goals are. So if I was just, just trying to take care of myself and my kid, I probably could have stopped once I crossed the uh, 10,000. I probably could have stopped, honestly. So once I was able to just say, hey, after all the bills are paid, everyone's been paid, money's been reinvested into the business, I still have $10,000 left over to just, to spend on me. I could have stopped there. But for the goals that I have, I actually need roughly $10 billion, long story. So even at 100 million, it's still like spit in this very large bucket. It's not going to get me to my end goal. And so I think that's why I'm at this stage mentally where I can't be satisfied. Because the money's not for me. I'll just tell you what it is. So I want to build these skyscrapers that are farms nearly from top to bottom. So if you can imagine like a, 50, 60 story skyscraper, but on every level, it's an indoor farm.
Wow.
Then being able to give a very large percentage of that food away specifically to children 100% free. So that is my long-term goal. Each of those buildings, the way that I've designed and priced them out, each of those buildings would be about 1.3 billion each. Well, 1,320,000,000 each.
Mhm.
So I would like to have at least 10 of them. I would expect that they would get cheaper over time. So that's why I just rounded to the 10 billion and not the full calculation. But that's why I can't really calm down because I'm nowhere near that goal. So that is my long-term thing. That is what success looks like to me. Um, so yeah.
That's an incredible vision. So if I may ask, what birthed that vision, that drive inside of you for that? I mean, it's a very unique vision to have.
Honestly, I was meditating for a while and I was I guess you could say asking God to tell me what I should be doing with my life because didn't know, still relatively young. Um, wasn't really getting any answers. And I kid you not, I was just minding my own business in the shower. I like to do my best thinking in there. Um, just having a good old time. I like to sing and stuff like that. And then it's like out of nowhere, it was like this brain dump happened to me, and it's it's the weirdest thing, feeling like you're thinking thoughts that are not your own, that just feel foreign and unfamiliar in the moment. And I'll never forget it. I got out of the shower so fast and just wrote everything down because it was a bit overwhelming. It was like I could see I could see the buildings. I could see all this stuff. Now, let's keep in mind here, I do not know anything about farming. I don't know any farmers. I have nothing to do with farming. So why would I want to do anything with farming? And as far as kids go, I like my kid, but I can't say I specifically like, kids. So that wasn't it. So it was, to me, it was the weirdest thing. I mean, it's been years now, but at the time, it was the weirdest thing to me because it didn't really make sense to me. It still really doesn't. Just because what I said, I mean, I'd have to go hire farmers and learn about agriculture and all that stuff. Now, the technology, I like that part, but it doesn't make sense as a life goal to have that when I have no real experience or insight into any of that stuff. Does that make sense?
Totally, yeah.
Yeah, so when people ask me like, hey, why that goal specifically? I have no idea. God
It's
wants me to do or something, because to me, I would not have chosen that. I don't know. I can think of 10 other things I might have done, but not farming. So,
yeah, that's incredible vision. I know
yeah.
my faith is core to who I am. So my test is always like when I get those types of thoughts or visions or inspirations, if I can't shake it, it's obviously not for me, right? Like I try to push it out of my head. And if I can't, then well, it's something I should probably listen to.
Yeah, it's definitely listened to it. And it's funny too, because after that, um, I started noticing that anytime I was deviating from that goal, things would always seem to fall apart,
Hmm.
whether it was like life or business. Like if I got off of track at all, it's almost like I was being sternly pushed back onto the thing. And so I guess I at some point just, decided like, hey, this is the thing that I have to do. So and with my sickle cell, I just to be frank, I'm not really planning to be here past around 55-ish. So I feel like I'm on this really tight timeline of just a little over 20 years to get these things done, and achieve these massive goals. So that is what really is driving me mentally.
That's yeah, quite a story and quite a vision. So for any of our listeners that want to help with that, what can they do to help?
So still trying to figure that out. I think what I'm long term going to be doing, so this now brings us full circle back to Oxford. So I don't just randomly have these companies, just because. I specifically have my business credit in Oxford Pierpont Capital because I fully intend to open a bank. Um, with that bank, it's with that investment banking, I want to be able to fund my own commercial real estate, my own businesses in that sense, but I want to be able to buy other businesses. So getting into the whole mergers and acquisitions thing through the bank. So it'll be Oxford Pierpont Bank and Trust pretty soon. So I'm probably like maybe 2.5 years off from that,
Okay.
uh, from having my first bank. And then I want to be able to just simply buy the vertical farm technologies that are already out there, because I don't think I need to reinvent the wheel. I think I just need to hire the experts that are already out there, and we're just simply scaling up. So most people, they have there's plenty of indoor farming technologies. Singapore does a wonderful job of it, but no one really scales it up. It's more like scaled out.
Mhm.
Um, so that is the major change that I want to be able to bring. And then I also feel like it is something that is beneficial when it comes to climate change, because we're able to produce massive amounts of food on a much smaller space of land instead of needing entire fields and swaths of land to be able to grow the same quantity of food as we currently do. And as climate change gets worse and worse, it is going to be harder and harder to sustain those types of farming practices. So if I act carefully and I work with experts who are already successful at a smaller scale in doing these things, then I'll be able to be successful in, scaling, being able to afford to give away a large percentage to kids, and being able to help people in sustainable farming.
Wow. So my wheels are spinning trying to picture how this whole, thing is going to exist. I'm picturing some building in Dubai or something like that. Do you have like a location in mind or?
So I wanted to the reason I want 10 is because I want to put them in the 10 most troubled cities. So I live in Atlanta, so the first one will definitely be in Atlanta. But the others would be wherever there's what are called food deserts. So for those of you who are not familiar with the term food desert, I'll give you an example. If I leave the house right now, there are a dozen places where I can go get high quality food, very healthy food, relatively affordable, inflation notwithstanding. And I have access, right? There are so many people when they step out of their door, their options are McDonald's and KFC and maybe the local corner store and whatever is in that corner store. And that's it. And so if they want to be able to have access to food, even if we're just talking about the food that's at Walmart, right? they have to get on a bus or they have to take this long journey outside of their neighborhood just to access food. What ends up happening because of that is I mean, not to say that I don't care about adults, but I think children, if I'm looking at it from an investment perspective, investing in children is more profitable long term for the good of society than investing in adults that are already set. So looking at it from just the children's perspective, if you are growing up in an urban food desert where you're constantly underexposed to nutritious food, that spills over into their academic lives and everything else because you don't even have your basic necessities. I'm sure there are other people who are already focused on helping with the education piece and helping with the mental health piece. I wanted to help with the food piece just because I feel like that's what I can do. That's what I have the vision for, and then work with other organizations to bring that full circle. So putting these buildings in those urban areas, being able to supply that food at a massive scale to children, and then going from there.
Wow. So other than not having to sleep and being able to work around the clock, what would help you the most in realizing that vision?
Meeting people,
Yeah.
people smarter than I am, because just like I was mentioning with the whole business credit thing, a lot of it is just about knowing what you even need to know in the first place. Once you have access to knowledge, then of course you can apply it, right? Know what was on the radar. But if you're operating in ignorance, you're always just going to be wasting time making so many mistakes that could have been avoided by just simply talking to someone who's already been there. So meeting people, that would be the biggest thing. Access to money, there's plenty of money. The money will come. Finding good people, that's a little bit more of a challenge.
And for people that are listening that can help you with that, how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, so they can what's the easiest way? I would say they can go to oxfordpeer.com, and they can contact me there. Uh I have an Instagram. I probably should, clean that up. But if you Google Oxford Pierpont, even if you don't know how to spell it, Google knows who we are. It'll finish the name before you finish typing, and just contact me. And I would just love to be able to meet people because I always say only stupid people know everything. I tell my kid that all the time. Only stupid people know everything because it is, there is no infinite knowledge of everything, at least not for one person. There's always someone who has different experiences that have shaped their reality, and it's about being able to adopt that person's reality and that person's perspective and knowledge to help shape your own so that you can create new things. So meeting people is probably one of the best things that I can do, and that's particularly difficult for me because I am a total introvert. There's nothing I like better than just sitting at my desk, um, you know, in my underwear, to be frank, just working and creating things without having to talk to anyone. So it's
Yeah.
still, but meeting people, I know that's where the most importance is because that will expose me to new technologies, new perspectives, and new opportunities that can help drive the vision forward.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I know I've personally found great success in my careers of surrounding myself with people that are smarter than I am and just learning from those people and from their experiences and just gleaning information off of them.
Yes, definitely. And I mean, that's just a good tip for anyone who's in business in general. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to be all hats all the time. If you just can have a vision and then assemble the people around you who can help you achieve that vision, then you'll go way farther, way faster, just by simply being able to piggyback on the experiences of others. So the
For
knowledge,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you had the attention of the whole world for 5 minutes, what would you tell them?
Um, hmm. If I had the attention of the whole world, I don't think I would want that.
Here comes the introvert. Like, I'll
Uh,
pass the mic.
I'd pass the mic to my friend Joe. Joe's a very social guy. I'm a very guy. I like to just, think about things, create things. Joe's the one who talks about these things. So I'd honestly pass the mic to him. But if I had to talk to people 5 minutes, I honestly do not know what to say. That's a very good question. Now I'm going to think about that for the day. I don't know because my goals are just very simple. I thought very creatively and critically about, all right, how can you really make the world a better place, really? And the only solution that made any sense to me was you have to take care of kids. Kids who are given better opportunities in childhood, given better education, just getting better exposure, they become well-adjusted adults who then can raise better kids who then repeat the process. The fundamental issue, I think, with the world as a whole, collectively, no matter what part of the world you're talking about, no matter which country it is this basic concept of you have parents that were raised in one mindset, and then that mindset gets passed down and down until some kid ends up breaking this generational thought process. And then you multiply that by 9 billion people, and you can see how these conflicting perspectives will constantly create problems in different ways, but constantly create problems. Look at climate change as an example. Kids today who are growing up seeing climate change, even now, millennials and Gen Zers, they already have a significantly different perspective by having experienced it and seeing that perspective for themselves of what climate change does than people just a few generations ago, or even one generation ago. Climate change is a hoax. So that illustrates the impact of teaching people when they're young how to do a certain thing, and then that ends up now impacting the generations that follow. That is the only way that the world can be a better place. So I guess if I had to say something for 5 minutes, I probably would just say what people should really already know, which is really focus on helping children have the best opportunities that they can have, because that's the only way that the world gets any better.
Right. Take care of each other.
So
awesome. Well, yeah, your website links I will definitely have below for anyone that wants to contact you and help with your mission. And I really appreciate you being on today. So definitely check out Bob on his website, and you can hit me up at sevenfigurebuilder.com. And I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. This was very fun.
Good. I'm glad it was. It was a lot of fun.